Stephen L. Talbot has an interesting paper entitled How Biologists Lost Sight of the Meaning of Life and Are Now Staring It in the Face. In that paper he states, if you think air traffic controllers have a tough job guiding planes into major airports or across crowded continental airspace, consider the challenge facing a human cell trying to position its proteins. A given cell may make more than 10,000 different proteins and typically contain more than 1 billion protein molecules at any one time. Somehow a cell must get all its proteins to their correct destinations, and equally important, keep these molecules out of the wrong places. Dr. Talbot goes on to ask, how does the organism meaningfully dispose of all its molecules, getting them to the right places and into the right interactions? The same sort of question can be asked for cells. For example, in the growing embryo, where little streams of cells are flowing to their appointed places, differentiating themselves into different types as they go, and adjusting themselves to all sorts of unpredictable perturbations, even to the degree of responding appropriately when a lab technician excises a clump from them from one location in a young embryo and puts them in another, where they may proceed to adapt themselves in an entirely different and proper way to the new environment. It is hard to quibble with the immediate impression that form, which is more idea-like than thing-like, is primary, and that the material particulars are subsidiary. Dr. Talbot goes on to state, the human body is formed by trillions of individual cells. These cells work together with remarkable precision, first forming an adult organism out of a single fertilized egg and then keeping the organism alive and functional for decades. And then we hear that all this meaningful activity is somehow meaningless or a product of meaninglessness. This, I believe, is the real issue troubling the majority of the American populace when they are asked about their belief in evolution. They see one thing and then are told, more or less directly, that they are really seeing its denial. Yet no one has ever explained to them how you get meaning from meaninglessness. A difficult enough task once you realize that we cannot articulate any knowledge of the world at all except in the language of meaning. In another article Stephen Talbot wrote called The Unbearable Wholeness of Beings, he states, virtually the same collection of molecules exist in the canine cells during the moments immediately before and after death. But after the fateful transition, no one will any longer think of genes as being regulated, nor will anyone refer to normal or proper chromosome functioning. No molecules will be said to guide other molecules to specific targets, and no molecules will be carrying signals, which is just as well because there will be no structures recognizing signals. Code, information, and communication in the biological sense will have disappeared from the scientist's vocabulary. Further down the paper, Dr. Talbot goes on to state, the question, rather, is why things don't fall completely apart as they do, in fact, at the moment of death. What power holds off that moment precisely for a lifetime and not a moment longer? Despite the countless processes going on in the cell, and despite the fact that each process might be expected to go its own way, according to the myriad factors impinging on it from all directions, the actual result is quite different. Rather than becoming progressively disordered in their mutual relation, as indeed happens after death when the whole dissolves into separate fragments, processes hold together in a larger unity. The following short video is good for highlighting the mystery behind the question of what power holds off that moment precisely for a lifetime, and not a moment longer. Dr. Talbot himself gave us a solid clue as to answering his question, what power holds off that moment precisely for a lifetime and not a moment longer, when he stated that code, information, and communication in their biological sense will have disappeared from the scientist's vocabulary.
In the following video, Dr. Stephen Meyer comments on the transcendent nature of information.
One of the things I do in my classes to get this idea across to students is I hold up two computer disks. One is loaded with software, the other one is blank. And I ask, what's the difference in mass between these two computer disks as a result of the difference in the information content that they possess? And of course the answer is zero, none. There is no difference as a result of the information. And that's because information is a massless quantity. Now, if information is not a material entity, then how can any materialistic explanation explain its origin? How can any material cause explain its origin? And this is the real fundamental problem that the presence of information in biology has posed. It creates a fundamental challenge to the materialistic evolutionary scenarios, because information is a different kind of entity that matter and energy cannot produce. In the 19th century, we thought that there were two fundamental entities in science, matter and energy. At the beginning of the 21st century, we now recognize that there's a third fundamental entity, and it's information. It's not reducible to matter, it's not reducible to energy, but it's still a very important thing that is real. We buy it, we sell it, we send it down wires. Now, what do we make of the fact that information is present at the very root of all biological function? That in biology we have matter, we have energy, but we also have this third very important entity, information. The biology of the information age, I think, poses a fundamental challenge to any materialistic approach to the origin of life.
Paper, Dr. Andy C. McIntosh, who is professor of thermodynamics and combustion theory at the University of Leeds, holds that regarding information as independent of energy and matter resolves the thermodynamic issues in and invokes the correct paradigm for understanding the vital area of thermodynamic organizational interactions. And when working from the thermodynamic perspective, the information content present in the cell is found to be much greater than the information that is encoded on DNA alone. In the following paper, working from the thermodynamic perspective, using two different methods of calculation, it is found that a simple bacterial cell contains over 1 trillion bits of information. Carl Sagan stated that 1 trillion bits of information is comparable to about 100 million pages of the Encyclopedia Britannica. And R.C. Lysog stated that 1 trillion bits of information would contain enough information to parallel the 5 largest libraries in the world. In the following experiment, through knowledge of a particle's position, the scientists were able to turn information into energy. Christopher Jarzynski states that this is a beautiful experimental demonstration that information has a thermodynamic content. In the following paper, the researchers proved that classical information is a subset of quantum information. Researchers proved that more than complete knowledge from quantum entanglement with the memory leads to deletion of the data being accompanied by removal of heat from the computer and its release as usable energy. At the 19.5-minute mark in the following video, Elizabeth Raper shows that quantum information resides along the entire length of DNA. And at the 24-minute mark, Dr. Raper remarks that practically the whole DNA molecule can be viewed as quantum information with classical information embedded within it.
Destroyed into a different state. So this is quantum information in the transversal direction. So let's make a little jump to the longitudinal direction. All these nucleic acids, they are more or less planar molecules being surrounded by electron clouds. These electron clouds, because you're dealing with aromatic rings, are highly delocalized, so that's why I draw them in such a sandwich notation. So now it happens that these electron clouds carry negative charge. And we know that adjacent negative electron clouds will repel each other. The intriguing thing is that this actually leads to correlated excitations lowering the ground state energies. So different charge clouds kick each other, and then they redistribute their charge distributions, and that can actually lower the ground state energy. Now, that effect is called van der Waals interaction, or van der Waals forces. And you actually need the coherence between neighboring sites to get the attractive part of the force. But now this also has non-trivial implications. So first of all, neighboring sites are entangled due to this continuous interactions. And also, the electron cloud of one side carries information about the identity of the other side. So if I'm a thymine here, and I'm adjacent to an adenine, this adenine influences my own electronic state. if there would be a cytosine next to me, my own state would look different. And that's substantially different from classical computing. So my own identity is influenced by the neighbors I have in the DNA chain. So here was a screenshot from a computer program where you do something with DNA. You've seen it many times before. And to sum it all up, what I told you in the previous slides, everything that you can see on this picture is classical information. The black stuff and the double helix that you cannot see, that's a quantum information. So I haven't discovered any good way how to picture correlations. Probably there is no way, so that's why nobody ever draws quantum information. But the next time you see such a double helix, you know, okay, all the stuff I do not see, that's a quantum information. So basically what happens, this classical information, which is usually drawn here, is embedded, is sandwiched into quantum information. And most likely, this classical information is never accessed. You can only, because it's inside all the quantum information, you can only access the quantum information.
Moreover, quantum entanglement can be used as a quantum information channel in order to perform quantum computation. Quantum computation in DNA and in proteins can go a long way towards explaining how the DNA is able to repair itself so quickly, and it would also go a long way towards explaining how the protein is able to find its final folded form so quickly. Moreover, quantum information is conserved, which means that quantum information is permanent. It will not be destroyed. It will always continue to exist somewhere in the universe. Besides providing direct empirical falsification of neo-Darwinian claims that say information is emergent from a material basis, the implication of finding non-local beyond space and time and conserve quantum information in molecular bodies on such a massive scale in every DNA and protein molecule is fairly and pleasantly obvious. That pleasant implication, of course, being the fact that we now have strong physical evidence suggesting that we do indeed have an eternal soul that lives beyond the death of our material bodies.